of their anxiety-produced box.
Right.
And to think big. For example, like, there are no rules here, right? Like, the filibuster is a rule that's made up, right? There is a filibuster cutout. You can use it for anything. There's reconciliation. You can use that for anything. Like, we are in the run-up to the midterm. The Democrats desperately need to get their base excited. We have a real fucking problem, which is that people keep getting murdered by these assault weapons. Republicans don't want an assault weapon ban, but Republicans don't even want any sensible gun legislation because they don't care, because they just want to do kind of very Trumpy stuff. And Republicans don't want to legislate, and they haven't wanted to legislate, since Newt Gingrich in 1994, but really more recently since Trump. The idea that these people are going to legislate is kind of, it's almost delusional. So, I mean, I would just encourage Democrats, and again, Chuck Schumer has a moment here right before these midterms, and we don't know when Democrats are going to have this moment again.
Right.
They may never have this moment again. I mean, one of the big news stories yesterday was that there are these Republicans training poll workers to supervise elections, and this is being encouraged by Steve Bannon. I mean, all of the evidence is pointing towards nothing good here. And you're really seeing one party has rejected democracy. So, if I were the Senate Majority Leader, which he is, even though people seem to think that that Mitch McConnell is, because
Right.
Mitch McConnell keeps eating his lunch. But if I were the Senate Majority Leader, I would be doing creative stuff. The thing about Republicans, Democrats are still asking them for permission. Republicans are just, they're eating our lunch and we're letting them do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're still waiting. I guess it's supposed to come this month for the final Supreme Court decision on abortion that we already know is from the leaked version is not going to be pretty. But you would think that you've got two big issues now for the Democrats. You've got, reproductive rights and you've got gun violence. And if the Democrats can't do anything with those, what good are they?
Well, but the thing about it is, and I saw an article in The Hill yesterday that made me want to scream, where they were talking about how some Democrats with hard re-election fights are trying to back away from the gun conversation. It's just exactly wrong. Like, the Republicans are not going to vote for you. The gun people, even if you pretend that you don't, that you just want them to have their guns and be happy, and those people are not voting for Democrats. The people who are voting for these Democrats are their base, and those are the people. I mean, here's a statistic. A more recent Politico Morning Consult poll found that 59% of registered voters believe that gun sales should be stricter. That's a lot.
Yeah.
59%. And so that's your whole base right there as a Democrat.
Right.
As a Democrat.
Right.
I mean, I think that the idea that these Democrats who have these hard re-election fights are going to stay away from gun control and choice, which are two wildly popular things, because they need to present themselves as mealy-mouthed centrists who have been focus grouped, is crazy, but that's what they do. And I think that the idea that these Democrats who have these hard re-election fights are going to stay away from gun control and choice, which are two wildly popular things, because they need to present themselves as mealy-mouthed centrists who have been focus grouped, is crazy, but that's what they do.
This has long been a problem for Democrats. They are much more concerned about sort of the mythical votes from the independents than they are for the actual votes from Democrats.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they seem to enter into every election, and that's their strategy is we can't win unless we get these mythical voters. We don't have to care about the people who are actually in our party. And that's their strategy is from the independents than they are for the actual votes from Democrats. They
need to present themselves as mealy-mouthed centrists who have been focus grouped, is crazy, but that's what they do.
And this has long been a problem for Democrats. They are much more concerned about sort of the mythical votes from the independents than they are for the actual votes from Democrats.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they seem to enter into every election, and that's their strategy is we can't win unless we get these mythical voters. We don't have to care about the people who are actually in our party. And it just, I mean, it'd be one thing if it were working a lot, but it's kind of not.
Well, I feel like they want to appeal to the never-Trump conservatives and not scare them off, but the never-Trump conservatives have no other place to go. And, you can't let them shape the Democratic Party, and they're conservatives.
Right. No, absolutely. And I mean, I keep calling them mythical, but obviously those people exist. There are people who are independents, who are moderates, or whatever you want to call them. And yes, they do exist, but I don't think you can care more about them than the people who are actually in your party. And terms of doing what you're supposed to do for the voters, it just seems to me that you should listen to the people and try to help the people who are in your party. And the Democrats, they just don't seem to ever want to do that. And I've said this before. They're like, it's like they hate their base. Like they think their base are a bunch of socialist loonies, and they think they have to appeal to these center or center right people. And, you know, and as we've said ad nauseum on the show, that was the logic for, you know, well, you can't nominate Bernie because they're going to call him a socialist. So you got to nominate Joe Biden. And then what do? They call him a socialist. And it's every time with this, it doesn't matter. Like, you're not avoiding the fight because the Republicans don't give a shit. They're just going to call you socialists no matter what, you know? I mean, if you can call Joe Biden a socialist, you can call Ayn Rand a socialist. Like, at that point, it's just that crazy. So go raw, ruthless politics. We've got two big issues here. We've got reproductive rights and women's reproductive freedom, and then we've got gun violence. These are two issues that are really going to stir up our base. Maybe we should play to that for once. For once, just do that instead of saying, well, but you know, yeah, some of our base, you know, they don't like guns, but then, you know, the moderates, they might be okay with raising the age from 18 to 21, but they're never going to go for, you know, X or Y, so we can't go after that. No, just go after it.
The whole So those are the people who won Biden, Georgia. Those are the people he needs. And those people, all they want from him, all those women who showed up in Georgia and registered all those voters, all they wanted from him was protect their right to vote. Remember that? That's all they wanted. And they didn't do it.
Yep.
It's so self-destructive to watch a political party not be able to deliver. And I think they can. I just don't think it's prioritized.
They're still